The colony on Proxima Centauri B stood as a testament to human persistence. A cluster of white domes and research buildings nestled in the red soil, home to 5,000 colonists who had traveled over 4 light-years to establish humanity's first extrasolar outpost. Administrator Jaiwan Park stood at the main observation window, watching the approaching Imperial shuttle with a mixture of apprehension and diplomatic poise. "They're early," Security Chief Hannah Kim said, checking her datapad. Her voice carried tension that matched the stiff line of her shoulders. "Typical Empire tactics," Jaiwan replied quietly. "They like to catch us off guard." The sleek shuttle descended through the thin atmosphere, its metallic hull gleaming under the reddish light of Proxima Centauri. Landing struts extended as it settled on the designated pad with a soft hiss. Jaiwan smoothed down his formal jacket and checked his appearance once more in the reflective surface of the window. "Remember, be respectful but not subservient," he reminded Hannah. "We represent Earth here." Outside, 8-year-old Mina Lee wandered along the perimeter of the research garden. She carried a small collection case filled with soil samples for her science project. The teachers encouraged the colony children to study their new home, fostering a generation that would truly belong to this world. Mina had excelled in her studies, particularly in xenobiology, already dreaming of becoming a scientist like her mother. The shuttle doors slid open with a pneumatic sigh. 3 figures emerged, tall, blue-skinned beings with 4 arms and elongated features. Their uniforms bore the insignia of the Galactic Empire's diplomatic corps, though everyone knew they were military officers with diplomatic titles. Captain Orlek led the delegation, his posture rigid and imperious. The Empire had ruled this sector for centuries before humans had even developed spaceflight. To them, humanity was merely the latest primitive species granted conditional autonomy. Mina noticed the visitors immediately. She had never seen an Imperial up close before. Her eyes widened with childlike wonder as she observed their blue skin and extra limbs. Without thinking of protocols or dangers, she changed direction and approached them, her sample case clutched in her small hands. "Excuse me," she called out, her voice bright with excitement. "Are you really from the Empire? Can I see inside your ship?" Jaiwan's breath caught in his throat as he watched through the window. He slammed his hand against the communication panel. "Mina, get back from there now." But his voice didn't reach her in time. Captain Orlek spun toward the sound, his upper right hand instantly moving to the sidearm at his hip. Perhaps it was instinct from years patrolling hostile territories. Perhaps it was the sudden movement of a small figure rushing toward them. Or perhaps, as many colonists would later believe, it was a calculated demonstration of imperial power. The energy weapon discharged with a sharp crack. A pulse of blue light struck Mina directly in the chest. For a moment, she remained standing, her face frozen in surprise. Then her small body crumpled to the ground, the sample case spilling open beside her. Silence descended over the landing pad. Then screams erupted. Hannah bolted from the observation room, racing toward the fallen child with Jaiwan close behind. Medical personnel rushed from the nearby research building. The specimen approached in an aggressive manner, Orlek stated coldly when Jaiwan reached the scene. Security protocols were followed. "She was a child," Jaiwan shouted, his diplomatic training forgotten in his horror. "She was only 8 years old." Orlek's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. Age classifications of primitive species are not relevant to security assessments. The approach was unauthorized. The medical team surrounded Mina's small form, but their frantic efforts quickly slowed. The doctor looked up at Jaiwan and shook her head slightly. "We're leaving," Orlek announced. "This incident will be logged as a standard security response to a potential threat. Your colony would do well to better control its juveniles." The Imperial delegation returned to their shuttle without another word. As it lifted off, Jaiwan knelt beside Mina's body, now covered with an emergency blanket. Her parents had arrived, their anguished cries piercing the thin Proxima air. With trembling hands, Jaiwan activated his quantum communicator, establishing a direct link to Earth's defense command. In all his years as administrator, he had never used this particular channel. His message was brief: "They've killed a child. Mina Lee." Age 8. Unprovoked. The response came almost instantly, faster than the 4-year light delay should have allowed. Understood. Protocol Sentinel is now active. Jaiwan looked up at the departing Imperial shuttle, now a distant speck in the sky. For the first time since taking his position, he felt something beyond diplomatic concern. He felt rage. Admiral Taeho Khan stood motionless before the massive viewscreen in the hidden command center beneath Seoul. His weathered face, marked by 60 years of military service, revealed nothing as he read the message from Proxima Centauri. Around him, the command staff watched in silence, waiting for his response. "Confirm message authenticity," he said finally, his voice steady. "Confirmed, sir," replied Communications Officer Minji. Administrator Park sent it through the quantum channel. The Empire killed a child. Taeho closed his eyes briefly. For 50 years since first contact with the Galactic Empire, humanity had played a careful game. They appeared technologically inferior, politically disorganized, and militarily weak. They accepted the Empire's generous protectorate status with apparent gratitude. They limited their visible space presence to a handful of colonies and traded their resources at unfavorable rates. All while building in secret. "Activate Protocol Sentinel," Taeho ordered. "Alert Defense Minister Suk." Deep beneath the lunar surface, doors that had never opened began to slide apart. In the asteroid belt, mining operations that were actually warship construction facilities powered up. Throughout the solar system, weapon platforms disguised as research stations activated their systems. 30 minutes later, Defense Minister Suk Bae entered the command center. Though nearly 70, she moved with the energy of someone decades younger. "They finally crossed the line," she said without preamble. "Yes, Minister." 8-year-old girl. Shot for approaching their shuttle. Suk's expression hardened. The Empire has ruled through fear for too long. They believe all species are either predators or prey. They failed to study our history properly, Taeho said. They don't understand what humans do when our children are threatened. The large table in the center of the room illuminated, showing a 3-dimensional map of known space. Tiny lights representing the Imperial fleet positions glowed in purplish hues. The Empire controlled over 2,000 star systems with a military that had crushed dozens of alien civilizations. "Reveal our full capabilities," asked Strategic Commander Doyun. "Yes," answered Suk. "No more hiding." Taeho pressed his palm against a scanner. His biometrics confirmed, a hidden panel opened revealing a red button. "Fleet emergence in 5 minutes," he announced. Throughout the solar system, hidden doors opened in the surfaces of moons and asteroids. From vast underground hangars, ships emerged, sleek, dark vessels that absorbed rather than reflected light. For decades, humanity had devoted a significant portion of its resources to building this hidden fleet while maintaining the facade of a primitive civilization still taking its first steps into space. On Earth, news of the incident spread quickly. Across the globe, people gathered around screens to watch the official announcement. "For 50 years, we have endured the Empire's protection," Defense Minister Suk said in her address. "We have watched them subjugate other species. We have recorded their atrocities. We prepared, hoping this day would never come." She paused, her eyes fierce. "Today, they killed one of our children. They called her a specimen. They showed no remorse. The Empire must learn what humans have always known: nothing is more dangerous than a parent protecting their child. And all of Earth's children are ours to protect." In orbit, the first wave of Earth's true fleet assembled, 1,000 warships equipped with technologies the Empire believed were centuries beyond human capability. Admiral Taeho took command of the flagship Defender, a vessel 3 times larger than any ship the Empire had ever seen humans operate. Its hull incorporated materials that could bend light around it, rendering it nearly invisible to standard sensors. "All ships report ready, Admiral," announced Fleet Commander Gina. Taeho nodded slowly. "Transmit to all Imperial communications networks." Throughout the vast network of the Galactic Empire's communications system, a single human transmission began to propagate. It appeared on screens in Imperial warships, administrative centers, even in the personal devices of high-ranking officials. Just one word: run. The Defender led the fleet outward, accelerating to speeds that the Empire believed impossible for human technology. Their destination, the nearest Imperial military outpost, a fortress station orbiting Tau Ceti. On the bridge, Tejo studied the tactical display. The Empire's 7th Fleet had already been dispatched toward the Sol system, no doubt to deliver punishment for human insolence. "They're sending 23 capital ships," reported Sensor Officer Jaiwu. "Good," Tejo replied. "That means 23 fewer we'll need to hunt down later." He touched a small pendant he wore beneath his uniform, a photo of his daughter and granddaughter who lived on Luna Colony. For a moment, he thought of Mina Lee, a child he'd never met, who would never grow up because an Imperial officer saw her curiosity as a threat. "The Empire has ruled for 1,000 years, Tejo said quietly. "They've forgotten what it means to fear. We will remind them." The fleet accelerated toward the stars, humanity's hidden strength finally revealed. Grand Admiral Mortek of the Galactic Empire stood on the bridge of the Imperial dreadnought Eternal Dominance, his 4 arms clasped behind his back. The massive viewscreen displayed a simple human message that had somehow bypassed all security protocols to appear directly on Imperial communication channels: "Run." "Primitive psychological tactics," Mortek scoffed, his blue skin darkening with irritation. "These humans think one word will frighten the greatest military force in the galaxy?" His second-in-command, Commander Vex, approached with a data tablet. "The humans appear upset about an incident on their colony." A security officer eliminated a potential threat. "A justified response to unauthorized approach," Mortek said dismissively. "Has the 7th Fleet launched?" "Yes, Admiral. 23 capital ships and support vessels are en route to the human home system. They will arrive in approximately 48 hours. Science advisor Donghun approached cautiously. Unlike the military officers with their blue skin, Donghun belonged to a species with pale green skin that the Empire had conquered centuries ago. His people now served the Empire as researchers and advisors. "Admiral, if I may offer some perspective on the human response," Donghun said hesitantly. Mortek waved one of his lower hands impatiently. "Speak." "I've studied human development patterns. They don't follow standard models. They advanced from primitive atmospheric flight to landing on their moon in just 66 years. Their technological progress is unusually rapid. Are you suggesting these primitives pose a threat?" Mortek's voice carried a dangerous edge. "I'm suggesting caution. In my research, I've noted humans are particularly protective of their young. The elimination of a juvenile might trigger stronger responses than we anticipate." Commander Vex laughed. "Their ships barely have functional shields. Their weapons are generations behind ours. What could they possibly do?" Donghun hesitated. "Perhaps nothing. But there are anomalies in our intelligence regarding Earth. Resource consumption patterns suggest they should have more ships than we've observed. Their energy signatures don't match their reported technological level." Mortek dismissed the concern with a wave. "All species seem unpredictable until properly subjugated. The 7th Fleet will remind them of their place in the universe." 36 hours later, the emergency alarm blared through the command center. Commander Vex rushed to Mortek's private chambers. "Admiral, we've lost contact with the 7th Fleet." Mortek's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "What do you mean, lost contact?" "All communications ceased approximately 20 minutes ago. Their last transmission indicated they had encountered human vessels at the edge of the Sol system." "Show me," Mortek demanded. The playback showed Admiral Urich of the 7th Fleet, his expression changing from confidence to confusion. "We have encountered human vessels, but these are not, wait, these readings can't be correct. These ships are massive, at least 3 times our largest vessels. They're not showing on standard sensors, only on gravitational displacement. They're hailing us." The transmission showed a human female appearing on the Imperial viewscreen. "This is Captain Yoonji Choi of the Earth Defense Force vessel Retribution. You are in violation of sovereign human space. This is your only warning. Retreat or be destroyed. Admiral Yurik had laughed. Your primitive species is in no position to make demands. Surrender your vessels or... The transmission ended with a bright flash. What happened next? Mortek demanded. Unknown, sir, Vex replied. All communications ceased. We've dispatched scout ships to investigate. 3 hours later, a single scout ship returned, its hull damaged and its crew in shock. The censor officer reported directly to Mortek. The 7th Fleet has been destroyed, sir. All 23 capital ships, all support vessels. Impossible. Mortek slammed all 4 fists onto his command console. What weapons did they use? Unknown, sir. Our sensors couldn't identify the technology. Their ships appeared to bend light around them. Their weapons bypassed our shields as if they weren't there. Most disturbing was their precision. They specifically targeted weapons systems and engines, deliberately avoiding crew quarters where possible. They spared crew? Mortek asked, confusion evident in his voice. Yes, sir. Escape pods were untouched. They even waited for evacuation before destroying several vessels. Domhun, who had been listening quietly, finally spoke. They're sending a message, Admiral. They could have killed everyone. They chose not to. Mortek paced the command center, all 4 arms now animated with agitation. How? How did they hide such capabilities? Our intelligence indicated they were barely capable of interstellar travel. They wanted us to think that, Donghun said softly. The question now is, what else have they hidden? And what will they do next? As if an answer, communication systems throughout the Empire began broadcasting a new message from Earth. This time, it wasn't just one word. The message was clear and direct. The officer responsible for Mina Lee's death. The chain of command that authorized lethal force against civilians. Deliver them to us, or we will come for them. The Imperial High Council gathered in the ancient chamber on Centaurus Prime. 12 senior officials sat around a circular table beneath the massive dome depicting the Empire's 1,000-year history of conquest. Usually, these meetings followed strict protocols with carefully measured speech. Today, panic filled the room. How is this possible? Demanded High Commander Dorvash, pounding his fist on the polished stone table. How did they hide such military power? Senior Intelligence Director Talon spread his forearms in a gesture of confusion. We had observers on their planet for decades. They showed us their factories, their shipyards. We monitored their resource extraction, their energy usage. Yet somehow they built a fleet that destroyed 23 of our capital ships in less than 30 minutes, Dorvash said, his voice tight with fury. The holographic projector in the center of the table activated, showing footage captured by a surviving escape pod. The images showed massive human warships emerging seemingly from nowhere, their dark hulls absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Their weapons cut through Imperial shields as if they didn't exist. Most disturbing was the precision. The human ships targeted weapons systems, engines, and command centers with surgical accuracy. They deliberately avoided crew quarters, allowing time for evacuation before destroying the vessels beyond repair. They could have killed everyone, whispered Council Member Lyra. They chose not to. The doors to the chamber slid open, admitting Professor Jean, the Empire's leading expert on human civilization. The small, gray-skinned alien carried several data tablets and appeared deeply troubled. You have explanations to provide, Professor, Dorvash said coldly. How did you miss this? Jean placed his data tablets on the table with trembling hands. We saw what they wanted us to see. I've reviewed historical data going back to our first contact 50 years ago. There were signs, subtle anomalies in resource allocation and energy signatures that we dismissed. Get to the point, Dorvash snapped. What are we facing? Jean activated his own presentation. Humans evolved as protective pack predators. Their entire evolutionary history rewards fierce defense of their young and their social group. In their historical records, there is no greater crime than harming a child. Images of human warfare through the ages appeared above the table, primitive at first, then increasingly sophisticated. Before they achieved space travel, humans fought each other constantly. They developed weapons of mass destruction that could have wiped out their own civilization. Then they stopped using them, showing remarkable restraint. Are you suggesting we should admire these primitives? Talon asked incredulously. I'm suggesting we should fear them, Jean replied quietly. When humans first encountered our empire, they immediately recognized a threat. Instead of challenging us directly, they hid their true capabilities. They studied us. They prepared. For 50 years, they maintained this deception while building in secret. Jean showed a new image, the small human child who had been killed on Proxima Centauri. This was their trigger point. In their culture, the harming of children represents the ultimate moral transgression. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. A message alert sounded, and Director Talon checked his communication device. His 4 eyes widened in alarm. We're receiving reports of human ships appearing near our major military installations throughout the sector. They're not attacking, they're simply watching. A show of force, Dorvash said grimly. They want us to know they could strike anywhere. Jean nodded. And there's something else you should know. I've analyzed their fleet movements. Based on their capabilities, I believe they've had faster-than-light travel far longer than we thought. Possibly centuries before they revealed themselves to us. Impossible! Lyra exclaimed. We would have detected them. Not if they chose to remain hidden, Jean countered. Which raises another question, how many other species might have done the same? How many others have we underestimated? Before anyone could respond, the holographic projector changed to show an incoming transmission. Admiral Teho Kong of the Human Defense Force appeared before them, his weathered face calm but determined. This is Admiral Kong of Earth. We request the immediate surrender of Captain Orlek and all officials who authorized the use of lethal force against civilians. We also demand full access to Imperial records regarding other species under your control. Dorvash leaned forward. And if we refuse? Then we will continue our demonstration until you understand our resolve, Teho replied evenly. We did not want this conflict. For 50 years, we hoped coexistence would be possible. We prepared for war while praying it would never come. The image shifted to show Earth's fleet now positioned near key Imperial worlds. You mistook our patience for weakness. You mistook our restraint for inability. Most critically, you mistook our warnings for empty threats. Teho's expression hardened. When we said run, it wasn't a threat. It was the most merciful advice we could offer. The transmission ended, leaving the Imperial High Council in stunned silence. The signing ceremony took place where it had all begun, Proxima Centauri b. 1 month had passed since the Empire had surrendered unconditionally to Earth's forces. The colony had transformed from a modest research outpost to the diplomatic center of the sector. Representatives from 50 species gathered in the newly constructed council hall, built on the exact spot where Mina Lee had fallen. Admiral Sung-Hoon Kim stood at the center of the circular chamber. Though not the highest-ranking human officer, he had been chosen to represent Earth for a specific reason. He had lost his own daughter in a similar incident 20 years earlier, before humans had revealed their true strength. The Empire's 1,000-year reign ends today, Sung-Hoon announced, his voice carrying throughout the hall. Not with their extinction, but with reformation. The Imperial representatives sat in a designated section, their once proud postures now subdued. Captain Orlek was noticeably absent. He had been tried and sentenced for the murder of Mina Lee. The punishment had surprised many. Rather than execution, he had been sentenced to spend the rest of his life working in a children's hospital on Earth, learning the value of the life he had taken. Today we establish the Galactic Council, Sung-Hoon continued. All species will have equal representation. No longer will the strong dominate the weak. No longer will technological advantage justify cruelty. As he spoke, the former Imperial representatives shifted uncomfortably. They had never imagined such a rapid change in fortune. Their mighty empire, ruler of 2,000 star systems, had fallen not through prolonged warfare but through surgical demonstration of overwhelming force. The humans had disabled their military capabilities while causing minimal casualties, a display of restraint that terrified them more than brutality would have. "We invite all sentient species to join this council," Sun Hoon said. "Including those who serve the Empire. We seek justice, not revenge. Cooperation, not subjugation." Outside the council hall, the colony had built a memorial garden. At its center stood a life-sized statue of Mina Lee, her hand extended in the same gesture of curiosity that had cost her life. Fresh flowers surrounded its base, brought by delegates from dozens of worlds. After the ceremony, Hyunsu Lee and his wife Jia stood quietly before their daughter's memorial. They had refused to leave the colony despite offers to return to Earth. "This is where Mina lived," Hyunsu had said. "This is where her memory will remain strongest." An imperial delegate approached them hesitantly, Regional Governor Trell, whose jurisdiction had included Proxima Centauri. "I wish to express my personal regret," Trell said softly, all four hands clasped in front of him in a gesture of profound respect. "We failed to understand." Jia looked at him with eyes that had cried too many tears to spare more. "What didn't you understand? That she was a child? That she was innocent?" "We failed to understand humanity," Trell replied. "For 1,000 years, the Empire encountered species that either fought back immediately or submitted completely. You did neither. You waited. You prepared. You showed a patience and foresight no species has ever demonstrated before." Hyunsu touched the base of his daughter's statue. "We didn't want war. We still don't. That's why your empire still exists, albeit transformed." "Was it worth it?" Trell asked quietly. "This change, this new order, at the cost of your child?" Hyunsu looked up sharply. "Nothing is worth Mina's life. Nothing could ever be." "But her death prevented countless others. The Empire killed children on dozens of worlds before Earth. The difference is that we were ready to respond." In orbit above the planet, the human flagship Defender maintained station alongside vessels from 20 other species, former victims of Imperial aggression now allied with Earth. Admiral Taeho Kon watched the ceremony from the bridge, his expression solemn. "Transmission from Earth, Admiral," announced Communications Officer Minji. Defense Minister Suk appeared on screen. "The last Imperial military installation has surrendered. Protocol Sentinel is complete." Taeho nodded slowly. "And the protected species?" "All 7 primitive civilizations the Empire was exploiting have been secured. They'll be allowed to develop at their own pace now, without interference." Taeho looked at the viewscreen showing Proxima Centauri B below them. So much had changed because of one small life lost. So much had been revealed. "The Empire still doesn't fully understand," he said quietly. "They think we hid our strength because we were planning conquest all along." "And the truth?" Suk asked. "The truth is we hid our strength hoping never to use it. We watched the Empire subjugate species after species. We prepared for the worst while hoping for the best." On the surface below, the ceremony concluded with the unveiling of a plaque beneath Mina's statue. It contained just 5 words that would become the founding principle of the new Galactic Council. "All children are worth protecting."